Okay, so take out your note sheet and take a look at the backside where it says iPhoto workflow. So first, what is a workflow? It says that a workflow is the steps that you take to complete a process. So you could have a workflow for all sorts of different things, and working with photos is just one example of something that you might use a workflow for. It's just the order of the steps that you take to do what you need to do. So in this case, it's the process of capturing, importing, organizing, fixing, editing, and sharing photos. And here's a workflow on this handout that I recommend using when you're working with your pictures using iPhoto. Now, somebody's workflow might be different depending on the things that they like to do with their pictures, or maybe depending on a specific program that they use. Maybe it's easier to do things a different way. Then they might have a different workflow. But here's the one that I recommend, the one that we're going to use. We're going to first capture our pictures. So step one is getting your photos, going out and taking your pictures, using a digital camera, using the camera on your phone, using something to actually get the pictures. That's part one. Step two is importing them into iPhoto. And who remembers the 3 ways to import from yesterday?
MP3.
What?
MP3.
MP3, that's a song.
Not the camera,
That's a sound file.
drag photos, or import to library.
Okay, very good. So again, they were connect your camera memory card, drag them right into iPhoto, or go to File and Import. Okay. Yesterday we did the drag method. I gave you a folder of pictures and you just dragged them right into iPhoto. And as you can see on our iPhoto library, our iPhoto screen right now, we've got one event sitting there. If you click on events on the left hand side, there's one event for it says demo photos, because that was the name of the folder that we imported. If you were gone yesterday, you're going to need to get those pictures. Plug this in, and the demo photos folder that's on there, just gonna drag it. Okay, and again, you'll see on the left-hand side here, I think I may have pointed this out yesterday, but since in our preferences we have the show item counts turned on, we're able to see that we have one event. You should see a little 1 there. And there are 49 photos in our library. So that number count next to the photos is going to show you how many total photos are in your whole library. Not just a particular event, but all the photos that you've imported. So if you look at your events and you move your mouse over the event, you can see that it shows you all the different pictures that are in there. This is called scrubbing, so you can kind of scrub through and see all the different pictures. If there's a different picture that you wanted to be on the front, so as you can see, when I'm not putting my mouse over the event, it's got this picture of these girls from that was a Powder Puff game. If I wanted to choose a different picture to be the front picture for that event, I can right-click when I'm scrubbing and click Make Key Photo. Now that photo is the one that's going to represent the event. Okay, so you're going to need to do that in just a little bit. As we're scrubbing through here, you can see there's pictures from lots of different things, right? We saw some from Girls Powder Puff. There is a soccer game. There's some from Homecoming. These are all from a few years ago. Homecoming Assembly, the parade. And then there's these few pictures at the end that are really random. There are some from this computer challenge, the Watson Center, the wrestling gym, and a helicopter, some animals, and the girls softball team. So there's lots of different things in here. And if we double click on our event, it'll open up the event and show us all the pictures that are inside. If it's not showing you the name of the picture underneath, you can go to the View menu at the top and click Titles, and then it's going to show you the name of each picture. Sometimes that's nice to see. Okay, so I suppose the first thing we need to do is separate these into different events. And if we go back to the handout, after we've imported them, that's the next step. Step 3 is to sort them into events. So we want to make sure that we've got all the right pictures in their correct event. Right now we've got a whole bunch of events. These pictures are from a whole bunch of different things, but they're all in one event. So we need to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave the first event in this folder or in this event. So we'll just say that that's going to be this girls go pink soccer game. So we're going to start then with this blue man or image 0099. So you're going to select that image. We're going to hold down the shift key and select the last image from this group, which is going to be 0112. Okay, so you should have these 5 images selected. You could also select the first one, hold down Command, and then click each additional one that you want to select. But if you use the Shift key, then you can do the first one and the last one, and it'll select all of them in between. So I want you to select 0099, the one of the blue man, through 0112, these 2 girls tie-dye in the green. You don't have the right one selected. Click the blue man, hold down Shift. There you go. Okay, once you have those selected, we're going to go to Events at the top, and then Create Event. And then you'll see what it has done here is at the bottom, underneath our first event, it's created a second event for just those 5 pictures that we had selected. So now we can rename this. Where it says Untitled, you're just going to click. And let's rename this Homecoming Colors. Okay, then we'll go back up to the top. The next group of pictures that belong with each other is 0004 to 0070. So we're going to select these. Should be 10 pictures. We're going to do the same thing. Events, create event. It's going to put it at the bottom. Let's rename it. This is Powder Puff. Again, we'll go back up to our demo photos event, select the next group, which are going to be these pictures from the assembly. So it's going to be 0019 through 0084. Same thing, events, create event. Go find that untitled event and rename it Homecoming Assembly. Back up to our demo photos. The one of Mr. Sorensen here with the megaphone and the parade. This is the only picture from the parade, so that's going to be in an event all on its own. So just select that one picture, create event. We'll rename this Homecoming Assembly. Homecoming Parade. Okay, the next group is going to be 0295 to 0319. This one is going to be called JA Business Challenge. JA Business Challenge. That's what that event was. Go back up. Only a few more. These three pictures, 0393 to 0395, are the Watson Wrestling Gym. So I'll put those in an event. Also, look at how, as we're separating these into different events, it's also showing you next to the event name, it's showing you the date that those pictures were taken. Which is kind of cool. Okay, next group is going to be just the softball team in its own event. That one is going to be softball state send-off. Softball state send-off. The helicopter here is also on its own. I'll just name that helicopter. Then the last four pictures, 0633 to 0637. Those go in an event, and we will just call that one Zoo. Okay, now as far as sorting the events, the only thing we have left to do is rename the first event, the one that we started out with. That's called Demo-Photos. Now it's only left with all the pictures from the Girls Go Pink soccer game. So all we need to do is just rename this event now. Girls Soccer Go Pink. Okay, so if we press this button that says all events, kind of go back, you should see all of your different events here. And now on the left hand side next to events, it shows that we have 10 instead of 1. We now have 10 events. So you should have the same. Okay, and they all have a name. And when you hover over these or you scrub over these, it shows you underneath. It shows you the date that they were taken and how many pictures are inside that event. So there's 8 inside Girls Soccer Go Pink. There's 10 inside Powder Puff. You know, and so on. So now when we double click on one of these events, it's only going to show us pictures from that event. Okay, when we were splitting events, it was kind of splitting them all up, or when we were creating the new events, it was showing us all of them at the same time still. But now, when you're looking at all the events and you double click one, it's just going to show you the pictures inside that single event. Okay, so on the iPhoto workflow, that's 1, 2, and 3. The fourth item on the workflow is to rotate any pictures that need to be rotated. Now, looking at all of these when we were splitting them into different events, I don't think that there were any that needed to be rotated. It looks like, you know, these ones that are portrait are already in the correct orientation. They're already fine. But I'm going to show you how you would do that anyway. So if you need to rotate pictures, you would select the picture, There's a couple ways you could do this, of course. You could go to the Photos menu at the top and go to Rotate clockwise or counterclockwise. Or I believe you could also go to the Edit button in the bottom right corner. And here's the Rotate button at the top here. Okay, now remember yesterday I showed you in the Preferences, if you go to iPhoto Preferences, on the General tab you can choose here which way you want that Rotate button to go. So you can see when I switch this, it actually switches the label on the button to go to the other direction. But the other way, another way you can switch this direction really quickly is just to press the Option key on your keyboard, and it'll switch that button around for you very quickly right there. So you don't have to go back into your preferences to change that. You can just hold down the Option key, little keyboard trick, and it'll switch it around for you. So this is where you could rotate it as well. None of the pictures need rotating, but that's where you could do it. Okay, let's go back to the event. The fifth item on the workflow is to assign keywords. Okay, assigning keywords is kind of like adding tags to different things, like when you add tags to a YouTube video that you might upload, or you add hashtags to your Instagram pictures. It's the same thing. You want to add keywords to your pictures when you put them in iPhoto. Why would you want to do that? What do you think keywords are going to be good for? Yeah, for searching, exactly. So later down the road when we're trying to find a specific picture, let's say we really want to try to find a black and white picture from a soccer game, then we'll be able to use keywords to really narrow down our search and show us the pictures that match those particular keywords. So we're going to go through and apply keywords. So to do that, we're going to go to Window, and then Manage My Keywords. There's a couple ways you can do keywords. One way would be to put your keywords into this keyword manager. So you can go to Edit Keywords, add keywords in here. I think that's probably more difficult because you have to try to think of all your keywords and add them to the list and then apply them to your pictures. It's probably just best to go to the Info button in the bottom right corner. Plus, this way you'll get to see if there are any keywords already assigned. So with the Info button pressed, this little panel pops out and it gives us all this information about the picture that I have selected. So if we all click on 6764 and then look over in our Info panel, the top part, which kind of looks like a little LCD screen, is all information about the camera and the settings on the camera when this picture was taken. So right here at the top it shows what type of camera it was. It was a Canon EOS 50D, which is a digital SLR. It's a pretty big camera. And it tells me that there was a Canon EF 24 to 105 millimeter f4 LIS lens. That's the type of lens that was attached on the front of this camera. The size of the picture in pixels is 1024 pixels by 683. It tells us the file size, so how big is the actual file. It's 196K, which is pretty small. And it's a JPEG. Then down here at the bottom of this little window here, it shows us some of the camera settings. So on the camera, it was set to ISO 125. 84 millimeters was the focal length, so that's how much zoom there was. Exposure, aperture, and how fast the shutter fired, the shutter speed. Some of this might mean something to any of you if you are into photography. If not, whatever. So then here below that we've got the image file name where we could actually change this. So if you wanted to rename it, you could do that right here. There's a 5-star rating system, which we'll come back to. Underneath is the exact date and time that the picture was taken. You could add a description. Faces we'll come back to. Keywords is what we're looking for right now. So right now, underneath keywords, it's got athletics, girls soccer, and WUHS. So it already has 3 keywords assigned to this picture. And if I click on the rest of these, I believe they all have those same 3 keywords in this event. Okay, so we didn't apply those keywords, did we? Those keywords were already with this picture. So that's something to note in your head, is that keywords, if there are keywords assigned to the picture, those keywords are like in the file. And when you give this file to somebody else, those keywords are going to be, embedded into that file. Are there any other keywords that we could add to any of these? What? Yeah, probably like pink or go pink, because it's not just a normal girls soccer game, it's the go pink girls soccer game. So if it's a keyword that I want to send to all of these pictures, I can select them all. So again, select your first one, hold down shift, select the last one. Then we're just going to click right inside the keyword box and type in go pink. If you just hit enter, it's going to then log that as a keyword. Some of you, as I'm looking around, may want to press the green plus on your iPhoto window. You're like working in a really small little environment. Open it up and use your screen real estate. Okay, so you're selecting all those go pink pictures and then adding go pink as a keyword. Any other keywords we could add to any of these?
No.
Okay, maybe the first picture here, since we've got girls actually playing on the field, a keyword that I would add would be action, since it's kind of like an action shot. What? You need to click to go back to your events and then just double click on the Go Pink event. Okay, then you need to select some pictures. Okay, so action would be a good one to add to 6764, since they're actually going after the ball. It's more of an action shot. I think that's probably pretty good for these. Let's go back to events and let's go to the next event, homecoming colors. We'll just kind of go through and see what keywords are already applied. So we've got class colors, homecoming, and WUHS. You don't really, a couple notes about keywords, you don't really have to add years, so I wouldn't need to add a keyword for what year this was, because the date is already something that's, embedded in with this file, with the files, is the date it was taken. So we don't have to really add that as another keyword. You'll always be able to search by date regardless. I think maybe we could use the actual color as a keyword. So for this one, I'm going to add blue. This one I'm going to add green. The next one, purple. Yellow. This one's green again. Okay, so that's it for that event. We're going to go back, now go to the powder puff event. So we've got homecoming and WHS, and that might be it for all the pictures that are in here. So what keywords might you add to all these in this event? You could do football. Delete the keyword?
Yeah, like I pressed enter.
You could try to undo, edit undo.
Football.
How about powder puff as a keyword?
What are we putting?
So for all the pictures in the powder puff event, we added powder puff as a keyword and football as a keyword. Then again, the one with the girls actually running on the field. This would be a good action keyword. Okay, if you can think of any more, go ahead and add them. Otherwise, move on to the next event. So now I want you to just go ahead and go through the rest of the events, adding keywords that would be appropriate. You know, again, it's just like adding hashtags to your Instagram pictures or tags to a YouTube video. Same idea.
There's like nothing to add.
Yeah, there's nothing I would add to the assembly event either, as far as keywords. This one here from the parade, it says iPhoto original. You can get rid of that keyword. Doesn't really mean anything to us, so we'll delete it. I would probably add homecoming and parade. All these pictures with iPhoto original as a keyword, I'm deleting that as a keyword. These ones of the wrestling gym should probably have WUHS as a keyword, along with wrestling. Okay, so you should just be finishing up adding your keywords. once we get through our workflow with these pictures, I'm going to show you how the keywords can be useful. Okay, does anybody need more time adding keywords? Okay, the next thing on the workflow is to assign faces. So let's go into our first event. Go pink. And we can actually, you could either just select a picture, or you could double click the picture to get it to get bigger. And when you double click the first picture, you can see that it's already recognized that there's a face in this photo. Does anybody know who that girl is?
No.
Okay, so then we're not going to name her.
Unnamed.
Okay, so it shows on the right here that there's one unnamed face. You can add faces if there are people that aren't automatically recognized. You can always add them manually. Let's go to the next one. Does anybody know these people? Okay, this one is a Betts. No, older, the oldest one. This is the oldest Betts. What is his name? Mm-mm. Older than Josh. Shoot. I don't know. Well, I'm just going to put Betts. So go ahead and just type in Betts. And then Mr. Georgievic over here, we can click Add Face over on the right. It just puts a box right in the middle of the screen. So move it over to Mr. Georgievic's face. Georgievic is spelled D-J-O-R D-J E-V-I-C. D-J-O-R D-J-E-V-I-C.
How much that spelled out? I've never seen the tests and quizzes.
Okay, and then I'm just hitting the right arrow key to go to the next picture.
Oh man.
What is it? Christy Gaelic. Okay. How do you spell that?
G-A-L-E-K, and then down
Okay.
there is one of those twins. She's really into twins.
Oh, come on.
Okay.
Her name is Alice, but I don't know her last name.
Kate.
Is it?
I don't know.
No.
I'm gonna skip over that one.
My cousin.
So then if you go to the next one, it should recognize that there's a face in the picture. It's Mr. Georgievic, so if you start typing his name, he should already pop up now that we've already recognized him once. So we're going to choose that.
Oh,
They sound better with the audio when we do recordings. Yeah. No, we won't need them for a few weeks. Okay, so I'm just hitting the right arrow to go to the next picture. I don't know who this kid is. Does anybody else?
Jordan.
or either of these kids? This is Bets again. And we've got Mr. Georgievic again over here.
Oh, that's Kristen's sister. Oh, that's isn't it? It's Jaeger.
Her name.
I don't know. I never had any of these kids, so.
Tori.
Okay, so if you'd like now to go through other events and name people that you know. If you don't, that's fine. We'll just move on.
I'm pretty sure it's what it's a name.
Sure.
Oh, a name. Yeah, look at it. That's all person people. Yeah, it's because that one person way up there. That's what it is, because there's a face right there.
So some of you are putting names on, that's fine. Spend about another minute doing that, and then we'll move on.
Way back there. Mr. Wesson, what is one picture for the third one? The person out way up there. What was her name? Everyone picture of both of them, and then you pick out an A1. Okay.
It's registered as a face.
No, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did. There's no name though. Oh, it's a name. Well, it just like half the people in this picture. That's not very bad. Wow, that thing is so small, picking up faces here. Horrible.
Okay, so after you're done assigning faces, the next thing to do would be to assign places. And we would only need to do that if the camera that we use doesn't automatically give it the location information. So even if you have an older camera that doesn't have the GPS feature built in, you can still use iPhoto to manually say, this is where I took these pictures. So if you're inside of an event right now and you have your info panel on, when you click on each individual picture, we've got all this information on the right hand side about that individual picture. Okay, so like we can see all the information at the top that I already went over, faces and keywords that are assigned, and you can see the place that this was taken. If you go back to all events and leave your info panel turned on, this information over here on the right is showing you all the information that pertains to that entire event. So here we can see all of the faces that are assigned out of all of the pictures that are inside that event. So inside the girls' soccer event, I see that there's, the Betts kid, Mr. Georgievic, Christy Gaelic, and, 6 other unnamed faces in there. I can also see that these keywords, athletics, girls' soccer, go pink, and WUHS, are applied to all the pictures in this event. And then finally, down here where you're going to see a map, for whatever reason, my iPhoto is not showing me a map. It thinks that I'm not connected to the internet, which is weird because I am. But it would show you here where all of those pictures were taken. Now, typically, all the pictures in an event are probably going to be taken in the same, area, in the same spot. But you could go click on one of these individually, and it would show you the spot down here. Now, if you need to change the location of that picture, if you need to add it manually, you can just start typing in into this box here, and it's going to start to give you results using Google, I think. So let's say if I type in Wilmot Union High School, here it is here. I can choose that, and then it's going to assign that place to this picture. Okay, and I can do it to all these at the same time by either selecting them all together or selecting the whole event in the event view. And just type in Wilmot Union High School. Now all of I believe all the pictures that we imported already have places assigned to them. So as you click these events, it shows you down here on the right where they were taken. Okay, for whatever reason my map isn't working, but I'll bet you if I quit iPhoto and open it back up, it'll probably work.
It shows no name where there's no place at all. There's no name right here. I didn't place it.
Then you just click the X on that little box. Shh. Okay, so that's how you would assign a place if your camera doesn't automatically do that for you. Okay, you would do that down here. Just start searching for the place. The next item on the workflow is to fix, edit, and rate. Okay, so let's say we're working with, let's actually go to the JA Business Challenge event here. Fix, edit, and rate.
What did you say?
So if we're working down the iPhoto workflow, we're on step 8 of the workflow, which is to fix, edit, and rate. I want you to go inside the JA Business Challenge event.
Oh, it got my name right there.
Okay, so let's double click the first picture. Shh. Quiet, please. Shh. You guys, knock it off. Alright, double click the first picture inside the JA Business Challenge event. We've got some unnamed faces here. I could name those pretty quickly. Jake Bixler. Yep. Rebecca Lundeen, and Eric Idler. I don't know this lady back here, so we'll just click the X. Okay, so step 8 is to fix, edit, and rate. We're going to go to the edit button now in the bottom right corner. So when you're on the edit button, over here the right panel turns from the info stuff to now the edit stuff. And at the top of the panel there's 3 tabs: quick fixes, effects, and adjust. So the buttons that are on the quick fixes are going to be the things that we can use to fix the photo. Things like rotate, enhance it, fix red eye, straighten the picture, crop the picture, and retouch. So retouch is going to get rid of blemishes. So if somebody has maybe a really nice zit that day, you can use the retouch tool to get rid of that, get that off their face for them. Right? Like the beautify button, we'll call it. So this picture, does it need any fixing? Well, usually the enhance button usually makes it look a little bit better. It tries to adjust some of the coloring and the contrast. Jocelyn, can you close that door for me? Okay, what I might want to do is I might crop this just because I don't really need to see this lady standing behind them. It's really kind of too much at the top there. So when you use the crop tool, you can constrain it to the original aspect ratio, or you can change it to a different aspect ratio. So maybe you want to crop this as a square, so that later you can post it to Instagram and it'll fit perfectly in the Instagram box. It'll be a square. Or if you want it to be widescreen, or you want it to be the size of the iPhone screen, you can do things like that. I'm just going to keep the original aspect ratio for now. Then change these sizing handles. It gives you a guide here. Does anybody know why it gives you those lines? And sometimes on your cameras or camera phones, it gives you those grid lines, what those are for. Little bonus question. It's not for focusing, but I think you're on the right track. Yes, that's part of it. It's to make sure when you're taking the photo that it's straight, but also it's for composing your shot. Okay, composing your shot is something that we're going to talk about a little bit here in iPhoto, but also when we get to iMovie when you're capturing video. Composing your shot just means how you're setting up what you're seeing in your shot. Okay, before you hit that shutter button or when you hit record on the video. And what those lines are for, it's called a rule of thirds. And so when I have these lines show up here, you can see that there's 2 lines going up and down and 2 lines going across, creating these different sections. So where those lines kind of intersect are at each of the thirds, right? So this is a third, there's a third in the middle, and a third on the right. And same with going horizontally. So what you want to try to do with rule of thirds is put your subject at those intersecting lines. So in this case, my subject is kind of these 3 students. So I kind of want to put their heads around this top third line that's going across. And right about there probably looks good. They're all kind of touching that third at the top. Okay, so when I'm done cropping, I'm just going to hit enter or click the done button. And there I've cropped my picture. Okay, let's go back into this event, and I want you to click on image 0311. Now, of these quick fixes, we can do enhance. That one you can pretty much do on every picture. That usually always helps make it look a little nicer. What do you think needs to get done with this picture? It needs to get zoomed in, so what do we call that? Yeah, what we just did, cropped it. And there's just too much space around our subjects, which are these people. So we want to crop it down. Hit enter. That's probably a lot better. Could probably even crop it a little more. It's kind of nice to get this little banner back here though that says Junior Achievement at the bottom. It kind of explains what the event is. Okay, now the last picture in this group, we could use probably cropping and straightening. So straightening, we need to straighten the picture out a little bit. Whoever took this was a little crooked. So a lot of times what you can do when you straighten is use those guides, usually on something that would normally be straight, like the floor, where the floor meets the wall, or if it's an outdoor type scene, you would line it up with the horizon. That's something that would be straight. So you want to straighten this out. I probably straightened it a little too much. And then this is going to need cropping as well. There's way too much white space at the top. Huh. I look kind of different without my glasses.
No. So.
Okay, something cool about iPhoto when you're doing these sorts of things like cropping and straightening. If I go back to the crop tool, notice that after I cropped it, it didn't actually delete those parts of the picture that I cropped out. If you go back to the crop tool, it shows you the original picture. So you can still go back and readjust your crop, or I can, adjust my straightening again if I need to. It doesn't actually destruct your picture file. Okay, when you're making all of these sorts of changes, what iPhoto is doing is it's actually just keeping kind of a little list of things that you've done to it, and it keeps that little list of adjustments along with your photo. Okay, so that it always keeps your original picture. It doesn't actually destroy that photo when you use these tools. So again, when I go back to crop here, you can see I can now adjust my crop if I want to, and the original picture is still all here.
I can't.
Okay, next would be effects. So let's go to the next tab. At the top, there's 6 buttons there that kind of have to do with the coloring. You can lighten, darken, adjust contrast, make it warmer, cooler, or adjust the saturation. So saturation is going to be, the amount of color. Is it going to have, a lot of color, not a lot of color? Okay, then the effects down here below that line. Some of these effects are on-off effects, like black and white, for example. I can either turn black and white on or turn it off. Sepia, I can either turn it on or turn it off. But some of these other effects, like the vignette or the matte, you can apply different amounts of the effect. So it starts out with the number 1 here, then I can click the arrow or keep clicking the button, and it's going to add more and more and more of the effect. So some of the effects have different levels or different amounts. Some are just on-off. If you want to remove any of these 9 or actually 8 effects at the bottom, one of them says none. You can just press that and it'll remove any of the black and white, vignette, edge blur, that sort of stuff. If you ever want to just go back to the original picture, you can click the revert to original button. However, I believe that's also going to undo your crop and straighten.
Yeah, it does. I just did it.
Yeah. So when you do revert to original, it's going to undo all the changes that you made to a picture. So if there's only a few things that you want to undo, maybe just use the undo button or, press none on the effects. Okay, and then the last tab on the edit button is adjust. And here's where you can just get a little bit more detailed with some of the adjustments that you're making, like adjusting the exposure, making the picture, brighter or less bright, changing the contrast, the saturation. Again, saturation is the amount of color. Okay, so if I bring the saturation all the way down, it's going to take the color that's in these people's shirts and kind of fade it out so it looks like a faded color. But you'll see there's a checkbox here that says avoid saturating skin tone, so it's going to try to keep the color of people's skin the same so that they don't all look like ghosts when you bring the saturation down. Then you've got other things like you can adjust the highlights and shadows, so really bright spots or dark spots, sharpness, and denoise as if it's kind of a little pixelated. You can get rid of some of that with the denoise. Okay, so I'm just going to cover some things on the notes and show you a few more things, and then you're going to have the rest of the time to go through the pictures and do some editing, do some cropping, straightening, do any fixing that it needs, and apply some of the effects. So if you turn your note sheet over, the side that has the notes on it, and with whatever picture you're on, if you click the Info tab, remember I showed you these stars here? The stars are used to rate your pictures, and that's one of the things on the note sheet. Stars are used to rate pictures. So after you've gone through and done some editing, you would rate your pictures. So after you've edited them and you're taking a look at them and you're like, this one's really good, you might rate that one a 4 stars or 5 stars. So you use stars to rate pictures. So you can, again, do this in several different ways. You could select a couple pictures at a time and go up to Photos and then My Rating and give it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or no stars. You could also use the keyboard shortcuts that it displays here, Command 0 through Command 5. That's probably the easiest way. Or you could click on a picture and click the amount of stars over here in the info panel. Question?
Are you going to give us time on Friday to do that thing?
To do that thing?
Do on Friday?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So Friday I'll give you time to do your Apple News. Okay, so that's how you rate photos. Stars are used to rate photos. I want you to go down 2 questions. Who can answer this? What types of information is stored in digital pictures?
What time? The time. Your names. Place. Date.
The faces actually is something that iPhoto just keeps track of. So faces is not actually stored in the file.
Place.
But the location information, yes. The time and the date. The camera. The lens, if there is one. You could put, the camera and settings. It'll tell you exactly, what settings were on the camera when the picture was taken. So the type of camera and its settings, the lens, the date and the time, the location, keywords are saved with the file. Right, we saw that as, after we imported, these already had some keywords, so that's also saved. Okay, so that's a lot of information that's actually saved in the picture file itself. The next question says, what things can you fix in photos using iPhoto? What are the sort of things that we can fix? Red eye is one, yes. Cropping. Rotating. Could fix color, yeah. Can fix red eye. Yep, basically all these buttons on the quick fix tab. So also retouch. We didn't use retouch. The only picture that I know of that it would really work on is this one here. If I really zoom in on this kid's face, he's got a few blemishes that we could fix for him. So if I go to the retouch button, the key when using the retouch is you want to make the size of your brush just about the size of your blemish. So say I'm going to get rid of this mole or freckle that he's got right here. I'm just going to click once on it, and now it's gone. Okay, and all these other blemishes he's got on his face, we're just going to click on them. Sometimes you have to be careful because it uses information around the area that you are clicking. And so like once I'm getting close to his hairline here, it's going to start to replicate his hair onto his face, and that would have the opposite effect that I'm going for. Okay, so different fixes, again, things like rotate, red eye, straighten, crop, retouch. Those are your fixes. The next question on the note sheet, what are some effects that iPhoto has to enhance photos? Well, for that question it would be all these sorts of things on the effects tab. Things like black and white, sepia, antique, matte, vignette, edge blur, fade, and boost. It's all of these things on the effects tab for the next question. No. You're going to have to actually list things on your quiz when you take it. You don't need to know them all, but I would make sure that you can at least come up with 3 fixes and 3 effects. Okay, and you also know the answer to the last question. Is the original photo changed using fixes and effects? No, because we can always revert back to the original image. We can always like recrop our picture if we want to recrop it. It never actually destroys the original photo. Okay, we're going to stop there for the notes and the demo today. You're going to use the rest of the time, shh, listen please. You're going to use the rest of time in class to go through all of the events and do any fixing that needs to be fixed and any editing that you'd like to do. Shh, you guys. Okay, so you're going to do any fixing like straightening, cropping, removing red eye. If you see any blemishes, use the retouch tool, and then apply any effects, things like vignette or fade or boost, edge blur. Okay, does anybody have any questions? All right, then have fun using iPhoto. Do not lose your note sheet. We're not done with that.
Poor Jen. Jump looking at her here.